When I was growing up, every evening the door would open and my father would stand at the threshold and call out, "Tadaima!" The colloquial translation of this Japanese greeting is, "I've returned." We kids, no matter where we were or what we were doing, would respond, "Okari nasai," and run to the door to greet him. Welcome home. This call and response from my childhood gave us a vocabulary for expressing both the joy and the relief of returning safely after separation. Today, as you all entered this sacred space, a long-awaited Tadaima echoed from the threshold. And as this sanctuary, which has been too quiet for too long, much longer than we could have ever imagined, filled, my heart leapt. Okari nasai! Welcome home. Welcome home. We have missed seeing you in sorrow and in celebration. Welcome home. We have missed hearing your voices and your harmonies together with us in prayer. Welcome home. We have even missed during prayer the soundtrack of schmoozing. Welcome home. At the start of the shutdown, we expected to be back shortly. We expected to be the same people in the same place. How little did we know about the forces that would somehow, while locking us down into one small physical space, change so much. Many of us are, in fundamental ways, not the same people we were when we were last in this same place. Every one of us has endured uncertainty. Some of us have weathered trauma, loss, illness, dark nights of the soul. Some of us have slowed down, aging in ways that make each day a little bit harder. And some of us have sped up, like our teens who have grown by inches and whose hearts have gone in such new directions, or new parents who we saw last as expectant, now starting to be seasoned pros. Some have held countless lives in their hands. And some have reevaluated our own lives, reorienting our daily actions around the things that we discovered anew truly mattered. And so we are not the same people in the same space. And I want to tell you a secret. As we come here, most of us are out of practice at getting to know each other and understanding who is in this space. Most of us are out of practice. We're perhaps feeling both excited to be here and a little uncomfortable and uncertain too. Thank God there's the opportunity to see each other. And yet, do you remember the name? We miss Kiddush. And thank God there's not Kiddush yet. Do we even remember how to casually converse in a crowded room? It will take some time. Our beloved member, Jill Epstein, shared with me a piece that she had written recently, reflecting on what she calls social fitness. Social fitness, the spiritual is my addition. Social fitness, like physical fitness, we all have social fitness. Imagine this, she writes, you and your spouse, fully vaccinated, invite another fully vaccinated couple over for dinner. You're excited. You haven't had an evening like this in so long, and so you plan your menu, you shop for your groceries, you pick out your wine, all is set. We're back in business, your spouse says, meaning that you're on the road back to normal. And the company arrives. There's glee all around. All is good. Dinner is great. At least the culinary skills haven't atrophied. Soon enough, you look at your spouse, though, because fatigue has started to set in. You say to your friends, let's adjourn to the living room. Great idea, your friend says, because if truth be told, she is tired too. And now you're all sitting in the living room. Everyone's a bit spent, and you've been together a whopping 1.5 hours. Thank you, Jill, for that story. What it means to be back together again is not only the overwhelming joy we feel, but also the overwhelming reality that we are tired. For some of us, social fitness will be like riding a bike. For others, it will require a more gentle stretch. We may be ready, or still raw. So much has changed. We have held so much. We're not the same people coming home to the same place, which raises the uncomfortable question, what now? For this past year, like many of you, I discovered an interest that I didn't know that I had. For generations, when Jews wanted to know what was okay or not okay to do, they would ask their rabbi, Rabbi, is this chicken kosher? Rabbi, is it time to say Shema? For more than 20 years in the rabbinate, nobody ever asked me those questions. The questions that I learned to entertain were the questions of the sovereign self. But when we shut down, there were 1,000 questions. What would be safe? What would be permissible? I suddenly found myself inhabiting that ancient role. People would ask, Rabbi, can we gather to pray outdoors? Rabbi, masks or no masks? Rabbi, what about socially distant Israeli dancing? And I, of course, would call my pandemic rabbis, our extraordinary medical committee, our advisors who led us through the wilderness, who shared their ruling. And I, in turn, would turn to our community and issue their psak. Our community wanted to do everything right. And in rabbinic parlance, this psak led us through. But today, the psak is, if you're vaccinated, as all of you who are in this sanctuary today are vaccinated, there is no more psak. You did it right. By getting your vaccine, you participated in the mitzvah of pikuach nefesh, of community, doing your part to heal our world. And the world is out there calling you now with so much more in need of your helpful hands. And yet, here we are, a little ready and a little not. And so, as the frame of communal responsibility, so critical to stemming the pandemic, now shifts back into our personal choices, personal risk calculation, personal responsibility, the story that we read here today in our Parsha gives us a helpful nudge. On its face, the story of the spies is a simple story. Our people, newly freed from Egypt, are at the edge of a land, nervous. And God says, send some representatives from each tribe to go in and see what awaits. They famously return and say, we saw a beautiful, bountiful land. 10 of them, though, continue. Even so, it's a no. There were giants in that land, and we felt like grasshoppers. Only 2 come back and say, we can do it. But why did the 10 say no? And why did the 2 say yes? That answer matters because this is not actually a story about them. It's a story about us. Like the spies of the Torah, we are at a juncture point. Like the spies of the Torah, we have seen with our own eyes reason to be anxious of this moment. Like the spies of the Torah, the paradigm has shifted, and the choices that make up our daily interactions with the world and with each other are now in our hands. And the question is, what will we do? There's the path of the 10, the path of fear. And then there's the path of the 2 who take the facts they see and say, I know that there's a long road ahead, and it has dangers and reasons to fear. But if we come together, I know that we have a mission in this world that God is still calling us out to do now, that we cannot do unless we start some strength training for our social fitness. These past 15 months have been brutal. Who among us does not resonate at least a little with the 10, with the impulse to say no? No, it's too hard to make those choices again. No, I'm afraid. No, I am not ready. And yet, who remembers the names of the 10 spies? And who remembers the 2? We remember Joshua and Caleb. All these generations later, we honor Joshua and Caleb because their move was to move. With all the attendant anxiety, their move was yes. What does it look like for us to say yes to life? It looks like this sanctuary today. It looks like holding both heartache and hope with 2 hands and reaching out gently to each other to reconnect. It looks like showing up to seek out the new mission that God is calling us towards now with a heartfelt Tadaima, I am back, to which I offer each and every one of you today a resounding Okari Nasai, Bruchim Habayim, welcome home. Shabbat Shalom.